this video, we will demonstrate how to apply data modeling in Microsoft Power BI. First, we need to set up the initial settings for the Microsoft Power BI desktop. Options and settings. Options. When you try to click under the data load of the current file tab, the default setting is that update or delete relationship is unchecked and auto detect new relationship after data is loaded is checked. So the first thing that we need to do is to uncheck auto detect so that when we try to import table, Microsoft Power BI will not automatically create a link between tables with the same primary key and foreign key. Click OK. Next, let us save the file as data model project. In this example, I will use an Excel file. Let me open first the file so that we have an overview of what to expect in our datasets. So as we open this sample data named Adventure Works, we have multiple worksheets on this file. And Adventure Works is actually an example of a supply chain company wherein we have here the details of each transaction, product level, and sales information. You will also notice that worksheets in this Microsoft Excel is named with lookup, and the last part of the worksheet is named as returns and sales. So there are two types of table usually that we import in Microsoft Power BI. The first one is the lookup tables. Lookup table means unique records only, while this returns and sales table is referring to a data or transactional table, which has duplicate values in terms of the field. Now, we need to import this in our Microsoft Power BI, and let us see what would be the effect of this in our data modeling tab and later in our data visualization. Assuming that this data is already clean, so right after we import the file to Power BI, we'll go directly to data modeling, and then we'll go to data visualization. Before we go to that, let's just have an overview of the data that we need to import. As you notice, we have here the calendar lookup. It includes all the calendar dates of this project, starting from January 1, 2015 to June 30, 2017. Customers lookup, that includes all the employee records. Customer lookup includes all the customer records. It's around 18,000 records of customers. Territories lookup includes the geographical data or the places or regions. We also have products lookup, alright, around 294 rows of unique products. You will also notice that in this worksheet, we have product subcategory, which means this 293 sets of product is grouped to around 37 unique subcategory names. And this 37 unique subcategories is grouped into 4 category names. Lastly, we have the returns. Returns are the transaction that recorded when customer returns some product due to some issues. One thing that you will notice in this table, we have duplicate date values, duplicated territory keys, product keys, and possible under return quantity. So this is what we call a data table. Data table means the data is not unique. The data may be repeated, and we can consider data table as transactional table. We also have here the sales table that includes all the information of the sales. We have the first column of order date starting from January 1, 2015, and the last available date is June 30, 2017. So this is around 56,000 plus records. So our main objective is to import lookup tables and data tables to our Microsoft Power BI desktop. And then we'll try to visualize it. What will happen if we go to visualization without establishing table relationship? And what will happen if we create browse for the file on desktop? And if we are referring to an Excel workbook in Microsoft Excel, we can choose multiple worksheets at the same time. So my objective is to import all of this worksheet all at the same time. So let's wait for a while after it finishes loading. And then we will select all the tables and it will be imported to our Microsoft Power BI desktop. Note that Microsoft Power BI also recognize if the data is name range or table formatted in Microsoft Excel. So in this case, I didn't do any name ranges and table references. So we are just referring to the worksheets. So let me check all available worksheets. And may add a column that will recognize the customer, whether if the customer is parent or not. So that's under the total children color conditional column. Let us name this as parent. Now for the condition, we are using the total children. It's greater than or equal to the value, Now, assuming that the data is clean, we will not have an idea of whether our column contains a valid, error, or an empty data. In this example, everything is cleaned already, so you will notice that the valid value is 100%. In case your dataset has an error column or error cell value, it will appear that in this error or red tab, it will dead. And there you go. Select options. Under the security tab, make sure that you have checked used map and field map visual. In some versions, especially for the free versions, this is not unchecked by default. So you need to check this before you can use all geographical data and put that in a visual map or a field map. In my case, I already checked this relationship. So what would be the result if we go directly to the visuals and didn't apply any relationship at all? This grid lines, you can just click the view tab and make sure that you check the grid lines and snap to grid. So this will help you to align most of your objects in the visual area. Another pro tip for the visual area, if you need more spaces within your charts, you can go to this blank canvas, just select any of the blank spaces. You can click on the format your report page, and here you can actually apply settings on the canvas. You can also adjust the type to custom, and there you can apply the height and width reference for your canvas. In the meantime, let me just choose the default setting, 16:9. Now, our next step is to drag and drop data coming from the tables. So under the AW sales, we have here the order quantity with the sigma icon. So which indicates that this order quantity sigma icon will display under the data view the summation of this column. So how much is the summation of this column? So in your table, when you see a sigma icon, it usually reflects to an aggregation. Usually the default function is the summation. You can change that under the summarization tab with other number functions. But in the meantime, let us choose summation. So let me drag and drop order quantity to values. And let me drag and drop territories lookup that includes the country level. To adjust the font size, you can go to Format, Your Visual, select the grid, and under the Options tab, we can increase the font size. Font size, global font size is referring to the size of this visual, but in other visuals as well, Power BI will display absolute result. Alright? So it doesn't calculate anything at all. 84,174 is the total order quantity, but it doesn't break down the idea of displaying this data per country level. And the reason why this appears in my report, because table relationship is not yet established. Alright? In the data model view, as you click, you can see tables without any lines in between, which means this table is a standalone table. So it doesn't relate to any available table in this data model view. Now, my objective is to calculate this per country level and later on create another report per year level, per customer level, per product level. So what do we need to do? Do we need to create a formula to calculate this? Do we need to create syntax? In Microsoft Power BI, before we go to data analysis expressions, which is the formulas, we need to apply table relationship for us to create filter context and apply distinction on this particular visual. So without doing any formula at all, we can break down the figures based on country level by just establishing the correct table relationship. How do we do that? Let us go to data model view. In the data model view, you will notice that we have multiple tables and data sets. Now, for my best practice, I normally position all my lookup tables at the top of my data model. So let me zoom out for a while. Lookup table at the top, data table at the bottom. So let me drag the terms table at the bottom together with the sales table. And let me rearrange all these worksheets or tables. Starting from the leftmost, we have the customer lookup, calendar lookup, territories lookup, and we have the products lookup, product subcategory, and product category. Again, remember, the starting point of creating a data model is to separate lookup tables and data tables. Lookup tables is what we call unique set, the table with unique set of records, while transaction table for the data table. The data table is served as a transaction table. Alright, now the next step is to rearrange your lookup tables based on relativity. So as you notice, I move on the right side all the product related tables, and then on the left side all the independent entities for customer, calendar, and territories. Now, another thing that you will notice in this data model view, that lookup tables usually contains what we call primary key. Alright, primary key is the unique column that when you go to data view, is actually displayed on the left side of the table. In this example, under customer table, we have customer key. For the calendar lookup, we have the date column, which is the only column available. Category key, subcategory key, product key, and territory key. So those are what we call primary keys, the unique identifier for each lookup table. While in data table view, you will notice foreign keys. Foreign keys usually with multiple instances. All right. Now, how do we create table relationship? In my case, I want to connect order quantity, which is under the sales table, to our country level report, which is under territories lookup. Creating table relationships in Microsoft Power BI is as simple as drag and drop procedure. So in this example, let me zoom in for a while. Let me connect the sales table and territories lookup. So how do we connect the tables? We need to identify the primary key of the lookup table and the foreign key of the sales or the data table. You can simply drag and drop them. Alright, coming from lookup table to data table, or drag and drop coming from data table going back to lookup table. When you release the mouse, it will establish a line in between these two tables, and when you hover the mouse between the lines, establish table relationship between the sales territory key and the territory key column. So it doesn't matter whether the columns have different spelling, different case value, like if the other one is in uppercase and the other one is in lowercase. So no bearing with that. Usually what we need to set up properly is the data type. So make sure that the columns have the same data type in order for you to connect them. Let's say, for example, the first column there is number format. The next column should also be a number format. In any case, if the other column is in text or date format, not all data will have a specific match. Now, what are the benefits of connecting tables like this? First and foremost, we can now share the resources of territories lookup to the sales table. In the same way, the reason why we put the lookup table on the top and the data table at the bottom, so for us to be reminded of that the sales table is the table that needs to be filtered, while the lookup table is the filter context. So later on, when we go back to our visual, we'll try to use all the resources of the territories lookup to apply filter context to our sales, specifically under order quantity. So without any formulas at all, let me go back to the report view. You will notice that there are some changes within the numbers, and this is per country level. You can arrange the data from highest to lowest by just selecting the header of the matrix. Now, when I say I can use all the resources of the territories lookup, we can uncheck or click the X button for the country. Try to drag, for example, region. So you have another breakdown of numbers per regional level. And try to drag continent. So you have another result for the continent level report. We go back to the country level. It happens because we have established the correct table relationship. So which means this data table can now be filter context by any of the available columns of the territories lookup. Later, we can also take advantage of using the table relationship especially when we are doing formulas or data analysis expressions. By establishing table relationship, it will allow us to choose and apply columns coming from the lookup table going to our data table in data analysis expressions or formulas. All right, now I don't want to analyze the sales with territories lookup alone. So I want to create another set of report. For example, for the calendar, I want to display the values of year, month, or day in terms of order quantity. So let us do another visual for that. In this example, let me create a bar chart by selecting a blank space, clustered column chart, move it on the upper left side. And here, let me just establish fields available in my tables. So what I wanted to see here is the sales based on year level. So order quantity under the sales table, let me move it under the x-axis. And under calendar lookup, take note that if you try to drag date in any of your visual, date is displayed as hierarchy. So when I try to drag date in y-axis, for example, order quantity, let me check. All right, so order quantity must be positioned in the y-axis. For a while, let me just check. And date for the x-axis, let me use date hierarchy and select year. There you go. All right. So when you try to drag date, you can choose whether you are using the date available in your database. So which means it will display all the dates from January 1, 2015 to June 30, 2017 of the calendar table. But if you click date hierarchy, you can choose whether you want the year only, the month level, the day, or the quarter level. So what I did, let me repeat that. I drag date in the x-axis and I unselect and click X button for day, month, and quarter because what I want to display in my report is the yearly sales report. However, since we don't establish yet table relationship for the calendar table, again, you will notice that the value will be in absolute form. So let us go back to table relationship under data model view. And in order to establish that kind of report per year level, all we need to do is to select the date column of the calendar lookup and connect that to AW sales. Under AW sales, we have two options, either order date or stock date. But the point is, how do you want the table to be analyzed? Is it via order date or stock date? You can only choose one. We cannot create multiple active connection on the same table. So I want the sales table to be analyzed based on order date. So therefore, let me choose date, drag and drop to order date. All right. So as simple as that. Now, in my Microsoft Power BI visual, this will now be displayed per year level. On year 2015, we only have 2,630 orders. 2016, 36,230. And for 2017, we have 45,340. All right. We can also create a report that combines the values of territories and values of calendar lookup table. All right. Moving on, let me have one more example by just creating table relationship by the perspective under customer lookup. So let's say I want to see the order quantity based on the demographics of the customers. So we have several demographics that we can use here, like gender, marital status, occupation, and parent. So in my case, let me use occupation. So I want to create a pie chart that will display the percentage value of orders by occupation. So we can see our target market. Now, going back, first let us establish a pie chart visual. Pie chart is available on the right side. Select, and let's try to resize. Now for the pie chart, we need the following items. Number one, of course, the order quantity. Move it on the values. While for the legend, let us choose the customer lookup and select the occupation. All right. So since we don't have yet the table relationship, absolute value is being displayed. Now we know the solution already. Going back to data model, and let us connect customer key of customers lookup to the customer key of the sales table. Drag and drop. By the way, in case you have dragged incorrect column, you can right click on the line and click delete button. Or you can manage all table relationships by selecting the home tab, and here you have the manage table relationships, so you can edit any existing table connections. All right, so this data is now connected. Going back to the report, there you have it. Let me clean up a while for the pie chart by selecting the format, your visual. Under the detail, let me switch off the legend to maximize the space. And for the detail labels, let us use category % of total. All right, so it says that in this graph, most of our customers are professional by occupation. We have a lot of orders in year 2017, and for the geographical area, we have most of our orders in the countries of United States. Let me name this worksheet as sales report. Now, in this example of data model, as you notice, we have one specific data table connected to multiple lookup tables. So this process is usually called star schema table relationship. We can connect data table to multiple lookup tables to create multiple perspective of visualization. Again, usually lookup table is served as the filter context, while data are practicing in Microsoft Power BI. That schema is called the Snowflake Schema. And usually Snowflake Schema is used for related tables. Like for example, on the right side, I have here the product level report. First, I have the products lookup, then the subcategory, and the category level. So what I want to happen is this. I want the sales table to be filtered based on product level. And remember, in products lookup, under the data view, products lookup, we have 293 unique products. Subcategory lookup, for subcategory, we have 37 unique subcategories. And for products lookup, we have 4 unique product categories. Now, let me establish the table connection. Starting with the products lookup, connecting the product key, which is the primary key of this table, to the product key of the AW sales. So product key, sorry, to product key, let me check. There you go. Now, as we established the connection, therefore, we can now create visualization using product level report. All right. Breaking down the values of order quantity based on product information. So I can use the model name, the product color, the product name, etc. Now, I want the sales table to be filtered based also on subcategory. However, we cannot do that since subcategory column or subcategory key is not available in the sales table. But we know that products lookup is grouped based on product subcategory. So even though the subcategory is not directly linked to the AW sales, as long as the subcategory is linked properly to the products lookup, so therefore the subcategory lookup table can apply filter context to the sales table. So this process is what we call the Snowflake Schema, or the parent-child relationship within the data model view. All right, products lookup can filter the sales table. Now, when we establish connection between subcategory and products lookup, product subcategory can apply filter context for products lookup and can also apply filter context for the sales table. So let us try to find the subcategory key. Connect both subcategory key. Earlier, we have connected the product key for this table. For a while, let me just highlight. All right. So our first table connection is based on product key. Now for our second active connection, we are using subcategory key. There you go. Okay. And lastly, I want the sales table to be filtered based on the information of product category. But in the same way, we don't have any category key under the sales table to begin with. So we cannot connect category table to the sales table directly. Now, one thing we can do, since subcategory has been grouped based on category, we have the category key and the category key. So let me just combine and connect category key for both tables. And there you go. We have established table relationship for both product category. In the same way, product category key or product categories lookup table can filter context to subcategory, products lookup, and the sales table. Now, what's the advantage of using Snowflake Schema versus Star Schema? As you notice, Snowflake Schema is more optimized because we are just establishing one connection from sales going to the product level analysis. But this is technically connected to three tables at the same time. This table connection is connected to three tables at the same time. But please take note that Snowflake's schema is only used on related tables. One good example is this product level analysis. Another example is for geographical data. For example, you have the granular level city. Each city is grouped per region. Each region is grouped per state, right? Each state is grouped per continent, something like that. So that is a related table or related data. That is where you can implement the connection of Snowflake Schema. Now, I need to create a visual relating to products lookup, subcategory, and category. So we can check if whether our connections are valid within our report view. So let me go to report. Under the sales report tab, still have spaces down below that I can add visuals. So let me add one visual here for the product level, then subcategory level, and category level of order quantity. Now for the product level, let me add a bar chart. All right. And I want to create a clustered bar chart of order quantity under the arrange from highest to lowest by product name. All right. I can also choose matrix for this one to provide clarity on the text. And in order to re-implement a bar, we can apply cell elements conditional formatting for that. So by selecting the format view under the cell elements, we have here the sum of order quantity. Just switch on the data bars. So it will reflect data bars between product name with the exact figures. All right. What else? Let me add another visual. Another visual I want to use is a tree map. A tree map is a visual normally used for category-based data. So it asks for the category field and for the values. Now for the values, let us use the order quantity. And to categorize this, let me go to subcategory lookup and drag the subcategory name. So it tells me that this data, tires and tubes, has the highest order quantity among subcategories. All right. Lastly, I want to add, for example, a donut chart that reflects the values of order quantity based on category name. All right. So category name came from the categories lookup, sales, sum of order quantity in the values area. Going back to formatter visual, let me remove legend, detail labels, category percent of total so we can maximize the space and make data more readable. All right, so we have created our first sales dashboard without doing any formula yet. For this example, we have established the correct calculations per country level, per year, per customer level, and down below for based on product level. It happens because we have established the correct table relationship in this example. Now, let me save the file for a while. Take note that since we are filtering a common data order quantity under the sales table, each visual provides a filter context. Let's say, for example, in the matrix, if I click United States, 29,823, so it will filter the rest of my dashboard. Right? If I select 2016 for the year, or I think since this is linked to a date format, it's not yet sliced. So let me just get back to that later. Let me try customer data. So by selecting professional, skilled, manual, so everything is sliced properly based on water bottle product, tires and tubes, subcategory, and accessories category. So this is a very dynamic dashboard that we have already established, which is the help of establishing the correct data model. Now lastly, in this project, Let us create another report under the returns table. Sales table represents the order quantity, while returns represents the value of return quantity. So all I need to do is to establish table connection of returns, product level, territories, calendar, and customers. Beginning with the product key, connecting product key to product key. Let me check for a while. Product key to product key. We zoom in for a while. There you go. So upon establishing the table connection between the returns table and the products lookup, so therefore the returns table is now filtered based on a Snowflake schema, starting from the products lookup, subcategory, and category. It will also allow us to create visuals that filters returns based on this level of analysis. Next, return date to calendar date. So it will allow us to create reports based on date level. Next, for the territories lookup, let me select sales territory key to territory key. So to allow us to create geographical or visualization based on region, country, and continent. Now, one thing we cannot do in this report, we cannot connect returns to customer lookup since we don't have any customer key, foreign key for the returns connecting to customer lookup table. Okay, so now we will create another page of report under the returns report, and we will create different visualization for return quantity per calendar, territories, and product level analysis. So selecting the report tab, let's add another page. Returns report. And let me add a card. Usually we add a card to display the emphasis of total values of our data. So I want to display here the total returns or the return quantity overall. Under the returns tab, let me just drag return quantity to the fields. So we have a total of 1,828, and that value is referring to the returns table decimation of this column. So we have 1,809 rows with two distinct values, 1 and 2. So if we add all the values of this column, that is 1,828. On the top, we can also add slicers. Slicers is normally used as filters. So let me add a slicer. Slicer is filter. So in that case, let me use category name under category lookup. All right. And another slicer I would like to add is the slicer for the calendar lookup date. So normally when you are using slicer date, we can use this horizontal bar to filter the dashboard based on date information. So this, as we select each checkbox, it reflects the filter of the return quantity per product category level. This one will filter based on date level. I noticed that components is blank, so we don't have any transaction at all. In order to remove components on the selection, you can select the filter and you can simply check accessories, bikes, and clothing. So it will not be confusing to select components at all. Another solution I would like to apply for the slicer is that we can convert this to a command button slicer by selecting the format your visual. slicer settings and select the tile button. And also for the selection, you can switch on show select all option. You can resize it, and let's try to expand it for a while. So this will allow us to create a more user-friendly control bars at the top of our reports. You can select multiple slicer by holding control button. Select all to select all available options for your category name. Alright, so next, I would like to add a field map or visual map that reflects the value of the returns per country level. Again, before you can use map or field map, make sure that you have set up the security under options and settings and check field map, use field map and visual map. So in this case, let me add a visual map, and under the returns tab, we are using return quantity for the bubble size and territories looked up country for the location. You will notice that there are bubbles available that reflects the sale as the returns for each country. So we can go to the settings, select bubbles. You can adjust the sizes of the bubbles to make it more readable. You can also set up so under bubbles, you can also select colors and click show all button to apply changes on color per country level. So this is more helpful, so you can identify the terms per country level report. Alright, so you can choose any available color in your Power BI visual colors. Okay, and lastly, I want to add here a matrix that breaks down the value of the data per subcategory and product level. So let us add matrix and select the return quantity for the values, and for subcategory under the rows, let me select the header to arrange this from highest to lowest. And lastly, product name under products lookup. In order to break down the matrix based on product level and subcategory level, you can click this icon to expand this report one level in the hierarchy. So as you notice, the table is now displayed in two levels, subcategory level and the category level. You can improve the appearance of this by selecting the format your visual. You can also select style presets available, for example, alternating rows. You can choose other format based on your preference. Under the grid, let us adjust the font size, global font size. Let me choose 13 for this one. And another visualization option I would like to emphasize for matrix, under the row headers, you can select option and you can actually choose to switch on the step layout or switch it off to create indentation for each product category level, or you can just simply switch on and then increase the layout indentation instead. Create clarity within your figures, and product descriptions. Alright, so this report will display the return quantity level. So if I select accessories, so it only reflects accessory total number of returns per subcategory per product name, and also per country level when you try to hover in the mouse. When you try to hover using the mouse to each country level. So we have bikes, clothing, select all. We can also navigate on the date using the slicer. In the same way, you can also click each bubbles to display data per country level. And you can also select product names to create return quantity result per country level. So in summary, data model is very crucial when creating dashboards and visualization in Power BI. If we don't establish table relationship, normally the output will be an absolute data because databases is technically standalone table. When we establish table relationship, it applies filter context in our report. In this example, by establishing the correct data model, we can create report perspective per different categories like customer, calendar, territories, and product level information. So that's all for your data modeling in Power BI.